mostly about Libby today. In order to follow along, you will need your library card if you've never signed in to Libby before. If you don't have your library card, that's okay. You can still follow along and watch what I'm doing. But you may need to contact the library at some point and, just get your library card number, your PIN in order to log in. Because the audiobooks are just like the physical books in the library. You borrow them one at a time. So even though it's a digital book, only one person can have that digital book at a time, or maybe 5 people, and it depends on how many copies. Just like in the library, sometimes if there's a new release, the library is great and they'll have like 5 copies of the latest book. Well, there may be 5 copies of the latest digital book. And if there's no copy available, just like the physical books, you have to wait for them or put them on hold. So it has the same feel of that. Now it sounds strange, it's like, it's digital. Why do we have to wait? Is it easy enough? It's like passing along an email. Why do I gotta wait? Well, you only get so many licenses that the publishers will allow, because they don't want people to just everybody get the library book and then nobody buys the actual book. Just like our physical books. They don't want to just keep giving all their books to the library, the physical ones, and have everybody get books, then they don't make any money. So there is a reason why you have to wait sometimes to get a book, especially if it's a special one. Also, when you look for books, it's not going to have every book that's available, in the world that's available. There'll be a list of ones that you may not be able to get, or it hasn't been made into an audiobook, or it hasn't been made into an ebook. So you won't find every single book, but you'll find plenty of books that are fun to read, will perk your interest, will be easily accessible. I love audiobooks for my commute to work and to listen to them. So that is many reasons for using it. So first place I'm going to take you, I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to take you to the Rojan Library's website, which is really well done. And I'll show you where you can get the app if you haven't done so already. Let me go here. So here's the Roelof Jansen Library, celebrating Poetry Month. And if you scroll down on the page, they have this icon here for Meet Libby. This is where you get the ebooks and the audiobooks, and they have magazines too. So if you click on that link, it'll bring you to a page here that gives you an overview on Libby. It has some frequently asked questions, so if you get lost, and they even have a getting started section that has videos and information on how you can navigate and move through Libby. So the getting started has some great stuff there. So you don't have to take too many copious notes tonight, because a lot of the things I'm going to introduce to you, you'll be able to find in getting started and frequently asked questions. So if you want to relax and just watch and learn, you can. But if you like to write, that's okay too. So Get the app has the 2 versions that you can download to get Libby on your tablet or on your phone. They look identical. So unlike other times when we've had classes together, I'm like, okay, let me show you what it looks like on Android. Okay, let me show you what it looks like on the iPhone now or the iPad. And I'd swap back and forth. Tonight, I don't have to do that because it's going to look the same on either the Apple or the Android one. They do also offer Kindle Fire. It's a little bit more involved to install it. So if anybody on the call is using a Kindle Fire, feel free to stick around to the end and I'll talk you through how you can get the Fire tablet online with Libby.
Excuse me, Pam. Noelle asks on your desktop, how will you, I think it's how you access Libby or how you use it. You've asked Noelle, she says, how do you use Libby? So I don't know if it's a question of accessing or using.
if you want to use it on a website, what you're going to do, they have like this bar in the way. It's making it difficult for me to see. Let's move this here. If you want to use Libby, you can go to Libby app as a website, and I'll put the link in there. And the Libby app is right here, and it's libbyapp.com. And this is how, if you want to use your computer, is how you can access it. So it's libbyapp.com. And the app is going to look the same as everything I'm going to show you on the mobile. It's just going to be a little wider. All right, so it's all, it's really nicely done the way they've done it. It's really some nice improvements. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing because I'm going to rejoin now with my iPad. And if you have any questions during the session, feel free to put them in the chat. Beth's monitoring the chat. She'll let me know if there's any questions, and she'll let me know, and I'll stop from time to time to answer any questions. So, screen. Start broadcast. And very shortly, we should get, here we go. iPad. So on my iPad right now, I have the Libby icon, which is at the bottom of my screen. It looks like a little girl with her face in a book, and it's next to the Zoom icon. If I click on that, it opens up my Libby app. The main ways to navigate through Libby are on the buttons that are at the bottom of the screen. You'll see one that looks like a magnifying glass for searching. There's another one that looks like a little library. I'm clicked on right now the main screen, which is those 3 lines, and yours might look like the little cute girl. There's 2 versions. Then the stack of books, which is the books you currently have out that you might want to read again. And then the clock is the history of books that you've checked out. So the first place I'm going to go right now is to that magnifying glass. I'm going to work my way through all of the buttons at the bottom. So we're going to start with the magnifying glass. And this is where I can search for books. In fact, let me just switch here a second because I think I'm in Mohawk. I want to go in the Hudson, excuse me. Okay, so this is where I go to search for books. I have a blue search bar on the top, and I can type an author's name. So I'm going to put King. And you'll see that I have Stephen King, Kingsbury, but I also have books that start with King, Kingdom of the Wicked, Lily King, author. So you can see on the right, it tells me whether it's an author or a series. And if I select Stephen King, you'll see that I have 4 choices that I could check out. And I can tell that they're audiobooks because underneath each book has a tiny little icon of earbuds for listening. And it also gives me the hours. So that's how many hours it'll take you to listen to this book. You'll also see there's an available now button at the top. So if I push that, it says only titles available to borrow appear on the list. And it's pinned right now for me because I like to only know what's available now. If I select remove filter, then I can see all of the Stephen Kings that are available to borrow. Now, some of these, if I look at like the drawing of 3 right now, you'll see it says place hold. As opposed to the right, finders keepers says borrow. So when I look at this, borrow means that this is a one that I can have right now. I can take it in my car. I could start listening. When I see place hold, if I click on that, that means I'm going to ask Libby to send me an email when that is ready for me to check out. And I currently have a book on hold. So when we get to the bookshelf area, I'll show you where you find your books that are on hold. So again, if you're heading towards the to the airport and you're like, I want my book right now, just to the left of the word audiobooks, I have, looks like almost a funnel of 3 lines. When I click on that, this is where I filter. And you'll see audiobooks under the format heading of my iPad is dark purple with a pin next to it. That means I only want audiobooks. If I take it off, that means I can see books, audiobooks, and magazines. So by toggling and poking at these different buttons is how you can sort the books that you see. So right now, I'm going to say, let's put an available now, and let's do books this time. Now at the top of my screen, that turquoise button says show 31 titles. It means I have 31 books by Stephen King available now. So I'm going to click that turquoise button, 31 titles. Let's take a look. So here I can see all the Stephen King books, and just like the audiobooks, I have the word borrow if it's available, and I'll have the word hold if it's not. Now the borrowing for either style, audiobooks, or ebooks is the same. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to borrow después. So that's the one on the left, the orange book. I'm going to select borrow. And you can see that it tells me I can have this book for 21 days. If I click on that 21 days, I can change from 7 days, 14 days, 21 days. So I can just say when this book will be returned. And when it gets returned, it automatically leaves your device, that license, and poof, goes back to Rojan. So you don't have to worry about overdue fees. These books return themselves. So it's up to you to decide how long you want the book for. So I have 21 days for my book, because I'm going to say I'm a slow reader. And once I've done that, I can select the borrow button. When I do that, I now have the book. It says go to shelf or keep browsing. If I click keep browsing, that's like if you're on Amazon or you're shopping and you want to look for more books, that will bring you back. But if I'm ready to read this book, I'm going to go to my shelf. I'm going to click that now. So here's my book. And I can see that it was borrowed today. And if I click on that book cover, it asks me, how do I want to read it? If you're using a Kindle, you're going to click on the left. Only if you're using a Kindle. Every other device you might be using, whether it's a big tablet, an iPad, computer, you're going to select Libby this app. And you'll see, I now have the book in front of me. And I'm going to take my finger, I'm going to touch the middle of the screen to take away all of the toolbars. And now I'm going to take my finger, just like I was flicking a page of a book. I'm going to pass it across. And you'll see it's exactly like one of the books on the shelf. It has really nice text. It flows beautifully. It has the same amount of pages. Now, if I wanted to change this book in any way, so say if you like large print books, or if you'd like different colors or styles to the book, you take your finger and you poke it in the middle of the page. And when that happens, you now get these extra tools, like the ones I hid originally. So those tools come back when you poke the middle, and they go away when you poke the middle. You'll see at the top, it has an A, and that's where you can change the font and the size and the appearance. So you can make the font a little bigger, if it makes it easier for it to read. You can change your lighting. So if it's, change it to dark, to sepia. So it gives you a couple of tools. I touch the middle of the page again with my finger to turn that off. If I want to get it again, touch the middle of the page. You also have, you see on the top right, there's a magnifying glass. So you can search within a book. So if you read a book before, or you want to go back and reread something, you can search inside the book. You also have a bookmark. So Libby will remember that what page you left off on when you reopen the book. But if you wanted to bookmark a page to come back to check or refer back to, you can have that, click that little thing and see how it turned red, and you can toggle it on and off. Above it is where you'd have your list of bookmarks. So this says I bookmarked page 9. So if you have a bunch of bookmarks, it'll mark it there for you. Now I'm going to touch the middle of the screen again with my finger. Okay. And here you can page through to the different chapters. So I'm dragging my finger. It looks like a piano keys at the bottom there. So if you wanted to drag to a certain page number, you could do that as well. Okay, I'm going to pause a second to see if anyone has any questions about the settings on the.
There are two questions, Pam, but they're not about the settings, but the last one from Martha, who wants to know if this will work on a Nook Glow light. I don't know what that is, but Nook Glow light and Kindle Paperwhite, or do you have to have Kindle Fire or an iPad? Does it work on other devices, obviously?
It does. It works on the Nook Glow. I think you have to get the Libby app for the Nook Glow. That's like Barnes and Noble's version of an e-reader. But it should go just natively if you use the internet feature of your Nook Glow. You can go to libbyapp.com and it'll work for you. And then whenever you select a book or an audio book, you want to say, use this app, Libby. With the Kindle Paperwhite, you're going to need to use the opposite side. So you would have to go to the Kindle button when you borrow a book. And you may have an additional step where you need to, you'll need to sign into your Amazon account as well when you read with the Kindle. So it will, you'll have one more step that you may not have with the Nook Glow, but yes, they will work with both. Now I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back again, and let's go to browse for another book, and I'll answer Marie's question, which is, can you see a synopsis of the book? So you can. This is on the main screen. I had clicked from my book. Up at the very, very top, it has the word back. When I touch back, it brings me to the main screen where I was looking for books. And if you look above where I checked out Después, I have Face in the Crowd. And next to borrow, Under borrow, I have read sample. So if I click that, I could take a quick peek at the book and see if I like it. I can read a couple pages. Let me go back. I can also, if I click on the book itself, I can see a synopsis that explains what the book is about, the format, the publisher, how many pages, other titles by the same author. And it'll give you suggestions of authors and books that are similar as well. So it's kind of like Netflix or Amazon, where it gives other suggestions. So I'm scrolling more towards the top again, and that read sample is available. And after you've read this synopsis and decide, yeah, I want to read this one, I could click borrow from here. I don't have to go back to the previous screen. They also have, if you look, there's a tiny box. It's just to the top left of the book cover. And if I click on that, it gives you the option to send a link. So you could email this link to yourself if you wanted to, or if you wanted to recommend this book to a friend, you're like, oh yeah, this is the book, and you can just click that and you say, hey, this book was really great, this is the book for our book club, whichever you want to do. So you can send your links that way. All right. I'm going to once again hit the back button, which is up at the top near the Stephen King. I'm going to click that. Let's do an example now of an audiobook so we can see what that's like. And I'm going to change my filter search. I'm going to say I'm done with Stephen King. So I'm going to go to the top of the page. And I'm going to hit that little X in the purple books to clear that filter. And see, it says remove filter at the bottom. We'll take that out. So now I have audiobooks and I have regular books. You can see Stephen King Fairy Tale is a book. Audiobook Elevation is below it, and you can see 4 hours, so we can tell that's an audiobook. But let's pick a new search term. So I'm going to get rid of Stephen King. So at the top of my screen, the word Stephen King, again, that X is there, and that's how I clear things that I'm done with. So I've cleared it. And this time, I'm just going to explore all the audiobooks that are available to me. So on my screen, explore with filters, I'm going to touch audiobooks, saying I have 6,000 to look at. So I have every single audiobook that's available to me. I'm going to filter this a little more. So I'm going to click those 3 lines that are to the left of audiobooks. And let's see, what else do I want to add? How about historical fiction? Those are usually fun. And we'll make it historical fiction in English. And let's see these titles. All right. So I'm going to pretend that I'm done my searching, and I'm going to say that Hang the Moon is by Jeanette Walls. Actually, wow, I didn't know she had a new book out. I do want to check this out. I'm going to check out this book. But before I do, I want to make sure I like the reader. I want to make sure that I like how it sounds. So if I hit play sample, I can listen to it a little bit and just make sure I like it. Intro.
I know I have the body.
Okay, so you can listen to the book a little bit before checking it out and then go back. Now, it looks like Hang the Moon, even though I'm like, yeah, I want that one, I have to place a hold. It's not available to check out right now. If I was to check it out, it would work the same way as the book. I would hit borrow, would end up on my bookshelf. But this time, this is something I want. So I'm going to place it on hold. So if I click place hold next to that book, it tells me I have probably a 7-month wait. There's 1 copy in use. 20 people are waiting. I'll place the hold. Okay. And it says this hold's inactive. It says I'm number 30 in line for this book. So when it's ready, I will have this book. Now I'm going to go to my shelf at the bottom to look at my holds. And that's just underneath suspend hold. And here you can see that I have Stephen King checked out. At the very top, under the word shelf, it says I have 1 checked, 1 loan. I have 1 hold, which is Hang the Moon, which is the one I'm waiting for. And tags, this is something different. I'll show you that later. So now that I have, there's that one on hold, I will get an email and it'll say your item is now ready to be checked out when it comes available. There'll be a link in my email. I'll click that link. It'll bring me to the page in Libby and I can then hit borrow and check it out. So the piece of cake and smart tags, you can tag the books that you've checked out with different items to help sort them. So like I have one that says items that I borrowed in Libby. The cake means books that I listened to a little bit and tried out. So if I look back on my shelf, I'm gonna go back to here and I go into Hang the Moon. There's a little tag of the cake, which means I listened to this, I sampled it, I ate a little bit of it. And that's helpful because if you go through the list and you start, looking, you're like, oh, did I see this one or not? And you see that little cake there. It's like, oh yeah, I already listened to this one. I didn't like it. And you can move on rather than going into the whole, I have done it before. And it's like different tags. Though, if it's something you've checked out in the past and you can't remember, that little icon, and I don't know if I have the one listened to or watched right, but there you'll see those little icons and you can touch the cake or you could touch those icons and it'll tell you what it means. But if you see that, that means in some way, shape, or form, you've already had a relationship with that book. Okay, good question. Let me see if there's any others there. Okay, so let me find an audiobook that's available right now. As you can see, I'm seeing a lot of place holds. I'm in a rush. I want to get a book now because I want to get in the car. So again, I'm going to go over to my filter with the 3 lines, click, and I'm going to say, please show me what's available now. And now I have audiobooks that I can borrow and check out right now instead of scrolling and trying to find one that says borrow and not place hold. So let's do Miss Moriarty, I presume. I'm going to play it. Let's see, 21 days. That's fine. And borrow. Okay. So I have borrowed this. Now I'm going to go to my shelf. Now I have a couple books here. You can see Stephen King has a checkbox next to it with the like a brown, gray and a blue box. That means that entire book has downloaded and it's local. Well, it's actually almost there. So it's 64% read. My dog keeps running by with toys. You hear the toenails clicking. The other one, the audiobook, you'll see that the circle is trying to complete. That means it's still downloading the audiobook, so you can listen to it offline. So if you're on a train and you're going through the tunnels of New York and you lose your cell phone signal, it doesn't matter if you let that circle go all the way around because you'll have the whole audiobook as a local copy. All right. So next, if I wanted to return a book, and I'm going to do this because number one, I'm not going to read Stephen King Después in real life. This was for demonstrating. But if you have a book and you finish it before the 21 days are up, it's a good idea to return it. So you can return the book, and the reason why that's a nice thing to do, where's the suspend all tools? Oh, they moved it on me. Tammy, jump in if you can remember where the return the book tag is, because I know it was in here.
I think it's just go to manage loan.
On the, oh, there, thank you. I couldn't remember. So manage loan, there you go. Thank you, Tammy. Where it says return early, if I click that, it's now back on the shelf and someone else can read it. So if you wanted to, if you finish your book and it's before the loan, you can wait for the loan to expire in 21 days and the book goes back on its own. But if you finish early and you hit manage loan and you let go of that book, whoever's next on the line can get that book a little sooner. Like that one book, this one I want on hold has 30 people waiting. So if you're a fast reader, release your hold so it can move on to the next person. And or if you decide, I can't get to this right now. So yeah, you will. Thank you, Noelle. You will still get a message letting you know that it's expiring, which is weird. It's a bug, which I think they're working on. But and thank you for returning them early from someone who's, who waits for books. I appreciate that. You must be a fast reader. So you can do that. Still waiting for Moriarty to finish downloading here. So where I'm going to show you next is there's something new with Libby, while we're waiting for this one to load, is if you can't find a book, there's now reciprocal loan privileges with other library systems. So if our Mid-Hudson library system doesn't have it, you can go to the bottom of your page and that 3 lines, or it looks like the little girl icon in the middle of our main buttons at the bottom. If I click that, you'll see I have my library is the Mid-Hudson library system in the middle, but I can select add library, those red words just to the left of it below. And I can pick a reciprocal library, which I think Tammy said Mohonk is a in Schenectady is one of our reciprocal libraries.
Yes.
And what were the other 2?
Upper Hudson Library System, so that's Albany and Rensselaer County, and then the Southern Adirondack Library System.
Perfect. So you can look at their catalog too. Thank you, Tammy. And then once I'm there, I'm going to click sign in with my card, which is just below add a library card. And it says that it's a partner library. So I can click on Mid-Hudson Library. I'm going to put in my library card number. And yes, I have it memorized. It's been a long time working as a library. Whoop, that's not right. Okay. Okay, and if I hit next. So now, if I don't find something that I was hoping to get in Mid-Hudson, I can check these other library systems. And if I click on those 3 bars, I can swap between my library systems. So I'm going back here to the Mid-Hudson library system. So,
and I just want to let people know too that, so with these reciprocal lending agreements, you're only going to be able to see things that are available now. You cannot place holds. And similarly, their patrons can't place holds in the Mid-Hudson system, but anything that is currently available that there is not a hold on, you should be able to borrow.
Right, and even though the pages look different, right, Tammy, they can use the filter to get
Same thing.
available now.
Yep.
Very cool. This is wonderful. Because I've done this for a while because I have a Westchester library card. So I felt like I was like extra special with 2 library cards. Now I'm not special. Everybody could do this, which is a wonderful thing.
Yeah, and if you live in New York, you can also get a New York State, you can also get a New York Public Library card and add that as well.
That's amazing. The New York Public Library card is worth every penny. So we're gonna go back to the bookshelf so I could open up my audiobook and we could see the different controls for that. To get into my bookshelf, I'm gonna go to, yes, it will retain your information once you've logged in. If you go to the books at the bottom in our main buttons, the main 5 buttons, this little stack of books, you can see my audiobook is now ready to be opened. So I'm going to select open audiobook. And I have the play button in the middle, so I can hit play.
Penguin Random House.
I can move ahead 15 seconds, or say the phone rings and you missed something, you can keep hitting that 15 circle back, means it rewinds for 15 seconds every time you touch it. So if you get interrupted while you're listening and you got distracted, or if you're like, oh, I don't need this is boring, you can go 15 ahead. Just like the books, you have that little, looks like a piano keyboard. You can scroll ahead in a book. You can also bookmark your books. So at the very top of the screen on the right, you'll see we have a little bookmark icon. It's white instead of red this time. Here we go. You have more bookmarks to the left, which is your index of bookmarks. If you click the sleep timer, which is the moon, you can, if you like to listen to audiobooks at night or in bed, this will let you set when you want your audiobook to turn off. So if you want to say 1 minute, end of chapter, 15 minutes, 30 minutes. So if you've ever listened to an audiobook while sleeping, and then you wake up in the morning and you were on chapter 3, but now you're on chapter 15 and you have no idea what happened between 3 and 15, this could just automatically turn off the book for you after 15, 30 minutes. So you don't like have the book run ahead on you while you're sleeping. Okay, and that is the little moon to the left. And then once to the left of the moon, this is your playback speed. So 1 time means that it's reading in its normal pace that the book was recorded at. If you're pressed for time or you can handle it, like a lot of my textbooks, I do this. If I have something due and I need to read it a little faster, you could speed up the reader and have them read faster to you. You can also, if you have children that you're working with, you can slow down the talking speed as well. And research has shown that people on the autism spectrum process language 75% slower than we do. So if it may be more comfortable for someone to listen at 0.75, and they may find it easier to digest what they're listening to. So that is for your playback speed. Okay. And that is pretty much the controls for your audiobook. If you have Bluetooth in your car, and this is the way I like to listen to my audiobooks, I just connect my book. I go to my Libby app on my mobile device, my phone or my iPad. I navigate to it and I hit play. And then I'm hearing it in my car speakers, which is fantastic. If you stop the book and close it and go back, it will remember where you left off, so you don't have to bookmark it. So wherever you stop your book, that is where it'll remember where you were last located. Okay. Now we're going to continue across those big 5 buttons at the bottom. And we're going to go to now the clock face. When I click on that, this gives me a timeline of things that I have read or have placed on hold. So you can see items that you've rented in the past. If you're like talking to someone, says, "Oh yeah, there's this really great book that I read. It was about Tiffany lamps, and what was the name of that book? Clara something." Well, you can go back in time and find that title and author, and by clicking on them, you can see the books. And you can also see, now that I've got both library systems, I can see that Mid-Hudson has 11 copies available, and I see Mohonk has 2, or one of 2 available. So you can go through now that they're both connected, and it does keep that connection. Once you've signed into the other reciprocal systems, it does remember it. Because that was Sharon's question. I want to make sure I answered that. Okay. So now I'm going to click the little house. It looks like a library. And this is where you have the main page. So I like this page. I feel it's very organized and it's well laid out and it's interesting. So sometimes I'm like, I just don't even know what to browse for. I have no clue. I just want to see what's new or what's interesting. You can use this page to see items that have been curated for you. Now, another reason I really love Libby, and Libby has saved me a lot of money, is their magazines. So they have a ton of magazines available, and it's the current issue. It's not like back issues. So if you're here near the top, you can see they have a button for magazines. Further down, they had another advertisement for magazines. But right now, I'm going to use this magazines button in the middle of the page. And you can see these are the most popular magazines that get checked out. So there's Woman's World, New Scientist, National Geographic, Star Magazine. And then after that, it starts categorizing them by cooking and food, home and garden. So you'll see there's a lot of magazines here, news and politics. So it's worth checking out. So I'm going to go to a cooking magazine. Let's have a Food Network. All right. So if I click on Food Network magazine, I'm going to click on the cover. And then I select borrow. You'll see that I can have this magazine for 14 days. Let's give it a moment to download. Yep, ready. Getting ready to borrow. Okay. And then once it gets ready, I can go to Open Magazine. And here's my magazine. I'm just going to like the books. I'm going to pop my finger in the middle of the screen to get rid of the extras. And I'm just going to move my finger across just like I'm turning pages of a book. And you'll see that the magazine is exactly like you would see on the print one by the grocery checkout. It has the same advertising. It has the same contents, the same format. You can, with your fingers, pinch and zoom. So if you want to make something bigger or smaller, you can. But it's, and if you touch different parts of this, like that was for the contents there, you can zoom around into this book, into this magazine as well. At the bottom of the magazine, you'll see there's like a little circle with a magazine in there. That's there. You could see a little more details. Here's the recipes that they have. It kind of, instead of paging it, you can have it as an up and down scroll instead. And then once I hit the done button on the bottom, it goes back to paging it with your finger. So you can, whichever is more comfortable. Sometimes with your phone, it's not comfortable that way. It's more comfortable going like this, up and down instead of side to side. On my iPad, I kind of like the traditional paging of a book. Now I'm going to take my finger and I'm going to poke in the center of this magazine. And you can see that just like books, you can bookmark them. It has the same icons for increasing the size. At the bottom, if I scroll my finger, you can see the different pages in tiny thumbnails, and you can pick any of those thumbnails. Let's go to Guy Fieri. And you can go to that specific page. All right, this tart with a twist. Okay, so I'm going to pause here a second and see the couple questions in here. Would you be able to print a recipe from this? You really can't technically print a recipe. You could do a screen capture if you wanted to capture a recipe. So like on my iPad, if I hit the home button, and I think the home button and my power button at the same time, I can take a screen capture of a recipe.
Or can you forward it to your email?
It's copyrighted, so you really can't.
There's no, forward button, the little square on the top, I guess not.
No,
No.
not really, no. But the other thing is too, you have your reading history. So you can go back and see which magazines you've read in the past, and you can check them out again and get those recipes. I mean, for me, it saved me, the bundling and the recycling and all of the things that magazines used to get in my way a lot. So I like using this as opposed to having a stack of magazines around. So with the recipes, if you wanted a recipe to keep, you could do a screen capture to grab it if you wanted to. But I think it's just as easy to go back to your previous history and just check it out again, because it's not hard. And I'm going to take my finger, I'm going to tap in the center of this magazine, and you'll see I have the back button on the top left. If I click that, it brings me back to my magazines. And again, I have the word magazines on the left. If I tap that, it brings you back one more time to your magazines. So we are just about at the end here. I think it was at 7:15. So I want to see. Let's see. Now, Libby is a universal site. It is a service that libraries buy and pay a subscription to, sometimes as a consortium. So yes, the majority of libraries use Libby. And if they're using Overdrive, they will be using Libby. Hoopla, I see that question came up too. Yes, Hoopla is a lot like Libby, except they also have movies on Hoopla as well. And Hoopla, well, we're going to cover that one tonight, but on the Rojan Library website, I'm going to stop sharing this screen a second and go back to the Rojan Library on my computer. Give me a moment. The screen
I
share.
would say there's a couple of differences with Hoopla. The titles are largely different. They don't have the latest, most popular titles.
No.
So you'll find older materials there. Also, it's a different business model, so there are no holds. everything is, each time somebody checks something out, the library gets billed, a couple dollars, whatever it is. So it's cost per click, we call it. So you can always check out anything on Hoopla. Most libraries do have a cap for the number of checkouts each patron can do each month, so it doesn't break our budgets, but there are no holds.
Right. And with like in Hoopla, I mean, I've done, quick blasts through Hoopla here. I mean, Hoopla also has music as well. That's so like here I've gotten the Hamilton soundtrack in the past. It has movies like British music here, Unsung Heroes, The Librarian, right? So you can see movies and items on here too. Hoopla, I usually cover when we cover like all of the library databases. We do like a quick overview on this. But Hoopla can be got from the Rojan Library website. There's also an app for Hoopla as well, and you can try them out. The great courses are there. It's like it's an interesting collection, but it feels like it's almost like they throw spaghetti on the wall to see who's going to check out what.
Yeah,
doesn't
it's
feel
not,
organized as
yeah.
Libby.
Overdrive, individual libraries are choosing what to buy. And in Hoopla, it's just a big database and we have no idea what's in it.
It could be anything.
We don't have any control.
It's kind of like the yard sale of audiobooks. Still don't know.
The other thing to know though is not, so Overdrive and Libby is shared among all the libraries in the Mid-Hudson library system. So everybody in the Mid-Hudson library system has access to that material. Hoopla is a database that individual libraries subscribe to. So not every library will have it.
Right. We're fortunate to have
I
it.
think every library in Columbia County does.
Oh, there you go. All right.
Pam, can you hear me? Matt,
I can.
okay, few questions. What does Libby stand for? L-I-B, library?
Yes.
And what's BY?
BY?
No, the ending.
Oh,
is-
it's just it's making library short and cute, like a little girl.
Okay,
So-
you talked about how long you could hold a book, but you
Mhm.
didn't cover renewal of the book if you can't finish it.
They don't let you renew. You have to check it out again.
Wow.
So, yeah, so if you don't finish it in 21 days, there's no renewing. But if there's no line, if there's not 30 people waiting,
Right.
you could just go right in and check it out again, and it'll remember your bookmark. It'll remember where you left off. It's fine. But it's just like the books that, the physical books. If it's a popular book and there's 30 people holding, you ask to renew it, they politely say, no, sorry, we have people waiting.
Right.
It's the same principle.
Yeah. So I read a lot of nonfiction and I usually buy my books, which can allow me to mark up.
Mm.
In your case, if in fact I'm reading a book online and come to a page that I even bookmark or earmark, can I highlight a word, a sentence, a paragraph?
I think it used to have that functionality. I'm not sure if it still does. Let me check. Hang on. Let me just do a quick there. And while I check, so if anyone else has questions, I'm just going to go to my bookshelf here.
I have a question.
Sure.
If a magazine like the New Yorker can be checked out for 14 days
Mhm.
and there's only 1 or 2 copies, that sounds like a rough competition.
No, magazines are different.
Yeah.
There are no holds on magazines and many people can check it out at the same time.
Thank you very much.
Correct. And that was an excellent question. Yes, no, there's magazines as many people can. And you're right, the competition would be very fierce. By the time you actually got your magazine, it'll be old.
Yeah.
So, no, there is no way to highlight or underline or mark up the digital books.
Okay,
Unfortunately.
thanks.
All right. Okay. See if there's any other questions. Yes, Noel says you can click on a word and find the definition, which is true. If you have an ebook and you press and hold on one of the words, if you're unfamiliar with it, it will give you the definition of that word.
I do that a lot too. Sure.
When I read a real book, I go to the, let's see. The ancestry.com database, Tammy, is it true you can only research that in the library proper?
You cannot do it at the Rojan Library. There was a time when during COVID,
Okay.
they opened it up and it was available everywhere, but that time has ended. So some libraries may have subscriptions to it.
Okay.
I think it pretty much is in library use.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I worked at the Desmond Fish Library, we had it and you could only access it
Yeah,
within the library walls. You
right.
couldn't get it from home. Let's see. So good question though. And then the ancestry is neat. There's some really, I mean, I've done genealogy before as a class where we cover not only the library databases that are available, but we also covered a few other interesting and cool databases that Rojan offers. So it's a little after time, so if you came tonight, thank you very much for coming. I will stay until the very last person leaves in case there's any questions. But if you found what you were looking for, you're absolutely welcome to sign off and enjoy the rest of your evening. Hopefully enjoy a good audiobook or a good ebook after our class. And if you need to set a pin or get a library card, don't hesitate to call Tammy and the wonderful staff at the Rojan and they'll help you out. Or your home library. I think we got the Columbia County Consortium here tonight. So
I also want to remind everybody that our next and final last Tech Lab session is May 1st. And we're going to be talking about traveling apps and all of the other fun tips that Pam knows about when
yes,
you do travel. And it's a great class, so I wouldn't miss it. And I would tell all your friends, it's a good thing to know. It's good stuff.
I could teach you to speak 80 languages in one app.
Yeah.
It's absolutely wild and fun.
So that's on May 1st. So mark your calendars.
Thank you all.
Thanks for coming, everybody.
Thank you for coming. I said I'm going to stick around until I hear no questions, and then I'll do a 10 countdown.
Good session.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Because I know when keep people's cameras off, I don't like to assume that you're just not there. I count down to 10 before hanging up the call. So
Thank you very much.
you're welcome, Joanne.
Thank you. It was great.
See everyone just kind of popping off here. All right, good. All right, I'm going to start my countdown. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 4, 3, 2.
I'm going to stop the recording too now, okay?
Okay, thank you everyone for coming. See you on May 1st.